Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Caravan of Garbage, where this week and next week and week after next week, 3 weeks, we're going to be covering the Matrix trilogy.
Once again, for Caravan of Garbage, which, to be clear, is not exclusively about things that are garbage.
No, it's just whatever.
But, just kidding, I like these movies.
I agree. And, you know, we'll get into some of the pitfalls of this series in general.
And the redeeming qualities of the sequel, some of which I may not have even thought about until I was an adult. And I'm like, oh yeah, that part is actually quite good.
Yeah, I completely agree. But look, we'll come back to that.
And by that I mean white men with dreadlocks. That's the great part about The Matrix Reloaded. The white men with the dreadlocks.
Now, I've got a question for you and for everybody. First of all, can you leave a like? That'd be great. Second question, has this aged well? Because I think it has, or are we just blind to it because it hit us at like the exact right point in time?
That is a great point because I rewatched it today and I remember thinking, boy, this really does. Some of the effects have that kind of that CGI haze over it.
Yeah.
That a lot of stuff of that era did.
You see those squids up close when they're attacking the ship and they're clearly like CGI things or whatever.
Yeah.
But on the whole, like a lot of it is practical. The green screen is mostly flawless. You know, the stunts are, again, practical.
Yeah.
You know, for the most part.
And I think, you know, I think that The Matrix is subject to, you know, that The Simpsons already did it kind of trope where, like, people go, oh, well, it's only just, it's slow-mo and it's bullet time and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, yeah, but do you remember before that? Do you remember before the Matrix times?
Or even after? Because the other reason I think it holds up really well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's not really 1999. So it's like a fictional 1999.
Yes, but it's filled with anachronisms. It's like it's sort of like the Batman animated universe. It's allegedly a certain time period, but they've put, you know,
rotary phones
and sort of anachronistic cars and architecture and that sort of stuff. Weird, timeless things. You know, a lot of it doesn't strike you as particularly dated because it's been designed to be of any era, really.
It's just, you know, whoever's running the Matrix going, this is good enough. They don't know, you know. The people in it, that is. But the second reason I think it's dated really well is because if you look at similar-ish movies that aped it of the era, I'm talking like Daredevil, I'm talking Paycheck, I'm talking other Ben Affleck action properties.
You can't stop talking about Ben Affleck action vehicles.
No, I can't. But all of those things don't work the way that this does. I'm just talking strictly visually as well. It holds up better than anything else around it by 5 to 10 years in most cases.
Yeah, and I think, again, it is, you know, it's not the Wachowskis' first film, but I think it feels like their sort of magnum opus. It feels like something they wanted to make since, you know, before they started making films. It feels like they've put so much care and so much attention into it, and there's so many visual choices being made. It's not just city scene and whatever backdrop you have is fine, or, you know, or just, you know, put them in a car, whatever car is fine, whatever sedan you just happen to have kind of thing. And every scene and every moment has a choice, even down to, you know, the scenes in The Matrix have an odd green tint to them.
Yes.
Or, and scenes in the real world have a blue tint.
Keanu has green stubble.
That's right.
I don't like it.
Or even stuff like things that, you know, you don't notice until a rewatch, like the famous scene with the woman in the red dress, where many of the background extras are twins.
Yes.
It leads to kind of a disconcerting rewatch where you're like, hey, hang on a sec.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting choice because nobody ever says it, but that program was created by Mouse, and he's just going to be copying and pasting NPCs just to fill out the world. Do you know what I mean? So it makes a lot of sense. I also think the sound design of this is incredible. For one, that little throat tap that he does to
to Agent Smith, sure.
That one. And when the mirror goes down his throat, that noise just always kind of stuck with me, the way it goes from a man screaming to a digital kind of distortion.
To an old modem noise of some sort. I love that particular scene just because how does that room work? Like, because in the scene, obviously...
What happens if you don't touch the mirror?
What exactly? Like, you know, obviously, in order to escape the Matrix, you have to go through this trace program, and obviously, it's, you know, it's metaphorical in some way, or it's, you know, it's computerized and digitized and abstracted or what have you. But you've got to take a pill, and then there's like a rotary phone that's attached to some sort of Rube Goldberg machine, and lots of old chairs and a mirror, and you have to look at the mirror and notice that something's up with the mirror.
But everybody else has to pretend that they don't know what's going on with the mirror. You know what I mean? He's got to touch the mirror. Don't nobody look at him.
Maybe that's the final test. If they're like, you cannot join the resistance if you're too polite.
Oops, my anarchy symbol.
Yeah, right.
So if you see the mirror wobbling and you're like,
oh, he's giving me acid.
I'll be very embarrassed if I touch that mirror and nothing happens. So I simply will not touch the mirror.
I've written here a lot of questions. It is some questions that I've just had over the years. I'm not really looking for answers. They're just little curiosities that I have about this world.
Folks, leave your answers in the comments.
Okay, why not? I believe that if you tell someone what the Matrix is, they would probably get it.
I mean, we got it.
It's the movie.
And when we didn't even escape the Matrix. We're still in the Matrix as far as I know.
We get movies the first time we see them, don't we?
That's correct, yes.
We're famous for it.
I think if he'd sat him down and said we're actually in a computer simulation, Neo, as a computer man himself, would have been like, oh, I get it.
Rad or whoa.
Now, Neo, do you want to wake up in a weird goopy pod? No. I'd rather wake up in my nice warm bed, thank you.
Well, that's the other thing. If you wake up in your weird goopy pod, the machine should just take one of those like pneumatic cow killing things. Just whoever comes out, just kill him straight away, you know? There's a good chance that it's a guy who's going to fly kick into your mainframe, you know what I mean?
Sure.
You don't need any of that. Okay, what about this? The skills that you learn in the Matrix through like downloading programs.
How many translate into the real world?
Exactly.
Is your question. So if you learn Kung Fu, do you still have Kung Fu in the real world?
I think they do, but you'd still be limited by your own physicality, I assume.
Sure.
Why is it if you die in the Matrix, you die in the real world? Does that imply that if VR gets good enough that people will eventually start having heart attacks?
Yes.
Okay, great. On the character of Cypher who ends up betraying them, spoilers, it's 20 plus years old. If you haven't seen it, don't look at any of this anyway. How does he have the meeting with Agent Smith initially? Who knows? It's neither here nor there. Also, he must know that they're not going to put him back, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. But to answer your question, he does have a program that puts himself back in the Matrix. That's what he switches off when Neo approaches him.
Oh,
When he's surprised, he's like, whoa, because it's a timer, basically. You ever seen an egg timer?
Okay, it's an egg timer. I'm just saying, like, what if somebody walked in when he was in it?
And just looked at the monitors.
I mean, I guess some of them use it for sex also, so it's probably not uncommon.
Yeah, right.
I'm using this for sex, I swear.
I've put a raggedy sock on the door. That's the signal, all right? Leave me alone.
Yeah, look, all I'm saying is he took his time eating that steak. I'll be like, I'm gonna smash this meal down. Get back to the real world.
Yeah.
I love steak, but I'm gonna finish this quickly.
Maybe the agents can alter the flow of time for him.
Oh, that
so
might be it,
maybe you know, if he got his wish, he'd just be eating that steak forever.
That's true.
Or some sort of all-you-can-eat buffet. What I do like, though, about the opening sequence, speaking of questions, it leads to so many questions, which is why it's great. You know, the opening sequence, the police are there, and then the agents are there, and there's this hacker lady. What's she doing?
She does that scorpion kick. She kicks that dude.
She did the scorpion kick.
Months of training to get that one.
Answer.
I mean, all of them. But
wasn't it? Do you remember seeing it for the first time and being like, "What is happening here?"
Well, I knew what the twist was going in.
Oh, did you?
Like, someone at school was like, it's this, and I'm like, cool. And it didn't affect me at all. Like, I still loved it. And what I think is fascinating about this movie leading up is, I think you can speak to this more, the trailers were very lackluster. People were like, Keanu Reeves, isn't he kind of a plank of wood? What is this about? It looks dumb. It doesn't make any sense.
I remember people laughing in the theater when the trailers came out. I think maybe the effects weren't finished. But it's interesting as well because, I mean, he was in Speed like 5 years beforehand. But we're like, how your star has fallen, Keanu Reeves.
You fool.
You're in Chain Reaction.
You simple fool. Just everything in this works.
Yep.
I'll talk about some of the casting choices later. Like, even the things like the fact that Keanu Reeves is, and this is going to sound like an insult, but it's not. He's
a dumb plank of wood.
Yeah, I mean, he's befuddled and like bemused and confused, and he's always like, he's mostly just asking questions or just staring blankly. Because you would. It's very confusing.
The Wachowskis knew who they were hiring, you know?
Exactly. But like, even Morpheus spends most of the movie explaining, and it doesn't feel like massive exposition dumps. Trinity's incredible. Agent Smith is incredible. I mean...
Oh, a young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Hugo Weaving.
Ah, mate.
It really takes me back. I'm like, God, look at that fresh face.
On the topic of Hugo Weaving, Ben, who edits these together, he did a video specifically on the interrogation scene over on his channel.
Right.
I mean, it's an amazing scene, and if you want to hear somebody talk more eloquently about these movies or that scene in particular, it'll be linked below for people to check out. Let's talk about Bullet Time, though, because we can't not. You know what I mean?
I mean, you know, obviously, The Matrix... didn't pioneer it, nor did they perfect it. What perfected it was that episode of Sherlock. The weddings, you know, the wedding episode, and it's just
whizzing around.
It's just bullet time wedding photos all day.
Well, you say,
but it did. You're right. But it didn't pioneer it, but it did bring it into mainstream.
Exactly. And for those people who don't know, very brief and incorrect and simple explainer.
Bon Jovi started it.
Well, no, actually, it was in a Gap commercial like
Was
the year
it?
before, yeah.
Huh.
And some it's cropped up over the years, but it became more well known here. But essentially, it's a series of still photos taken in like a circle or semicircle, all taken in unison, which gives the illusion that something is frozen in midair.
Like hundreds or even thousands at a time, and then they can sort of assemble them in a computer in sequence, and sort of move back and forth in between frames and in between cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
To give the illusion that a person is stationary in the air or spinning around or what have you.
Exactly. And also by the middle of 2002, fun fact, the famous bullet time sequence had been spoofed in over 20 different movies. Wow. So just in those 2 years alone.
Wow.
That's too many.
Yeah.
But the fight scenes, though, they all went through extensive training, months upon months doing so. Hong Kong stunt coordinator Yuan Wu Ping came on board, which was also not common for Western films of that era.
Well,
and that's another thing that sets this apart.
I divide Hollywood movie action sequences into pre-The Matrix and post-The Matrix.
Yes.
Where pre-The Matrix, there was a lot of sort of individual shots of characters swinging a punch, then a cut, then another punch, then a reaction, then a cut. Whereas
then a roll.
Maybe maybe a roll, maybe a double-handed punch.
Sure.
But the Matrix sort of pioneered in Western cinema this very very long sequences of moves with no cuts.
Yeah.
There's so much training, so much choreography,
so many tiles being chipped off walls.
That's right.
Yeah, I love it. And I think also it's interesting because there are so many fight scenes or action sequences, but they're all so unique. It's not just punch up after punch up. I mean, in a way it is punch up after punch up. But if you look at like from the moment they hit the lobby to the end, it's lobby to rooftop to helicopter to streets to subway to hallway. And, in probably that order.
Yeah.
But each one of them is amazing. I mean, the helicopter hitting the building and the ripple effect, the minigun minute, if you will.
Oh, sure. And we'll look
is this the origin of your famous segment, Minigun Minutes?
It could very well be. Obviously, Neo uses it to as part of his very subtle scheme to rescue Morpheus. He absolutely riddles a building with bullets. A bunch of agents hit and go down, but obviously they didn't get squibbed, so 0 out of 10.
Yeah, but it's not a squiddy kind of movie, Mason.
0 out of 10.
I mean, it's a squiddy kind of movie.
It is a very squiddy movie. Squiddy rating 10 out of 10, obviously.
The other thing is, like, we could talk about how Will Smith turned down the lead role to do Wild Wild West because when the movie was described to him, it was described weird, and he's like, I don't get this, I'm going to do a worse movie.
That also happened to Sean Connery, right?
In the next one, yes.
Yes.
We could talk all day about how dull and generic the Sydney skyline is in this movie, and just the city in general. Get fucked, Sydney. We could talk all day about... Just kidding, Sydney, we love you. We could talk all day about how Keanu Reeves trained with a neck brace after very invasive surgery, which is why all of his fighting is very upright and stilted.
I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, and that's also why he does like minimal kicks.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So yeah, there's a bunch of behind the scenes footage of that. We could talk about all of that, Mason, or we could talk about how maybe a lot of this was potentially stolen. Potentially, allegedly.
Well, I mean, potentially and allegedly. And, obviously, this became something of a cultural phenomenon.
Null pointer, runner.
Stevens, agent.
Simon, a runner.
Freeman, 713. I am a sentinel.
Obviously, you mentioned, it inspired 20 bullet time sequences in copycat movies and homages and parodies and whatever. But obviously, because it became so popular and successful, a lot of people made claims of plagiarism against it, or they obviously took this shot from this, or they obviously, and I think the Wachowskis have never claimed to.
They've been open about their influences. They've talked about how like it's a mix of kung fu action films and like anime, like Ghost in the Shell,
yes,
and
exactly.
Philip K. Dick and Euromancer and all these other things.
And I feel like you can't really own the concept of a post-apocalyptic world. Or, a ragtag group of resistance fighters, or being trapped in a computer, or...
I bet there's someone who owns that like somebody owns Happy Birthday.
Yeah, well, maybe, that's true. The very concept of it. But, and a lot of this stuff is simply parallel thought, I think. I think there are two notable cases of accusations of plagiarism.
Yes.
The first one is from a woman named Sophia Stewart, who was referred to some people as the mother of the Matrix, because she claims she created the Matrix.
Why didn't they call her the Oracle?
Oh, great question.
Maybe the suing happened before the Oracle was revealed to be the mother of the Matrix.
Well, okay, so what happened was, according to her, she wrote a science fiction story called The Third Eye in the early 80s, and she included like a screen treatment, like illustrations, character profiles, all this sort of stuff. And then in 1986, she opened up a magazine and she discovered apparently the Wachowskis were running a competition. They were accepting submissions of science fiction stories to give prizes to. And she submitted her story. She never heard back from anyone. And then years later, the Wachowskis created The Matrix.
Right.
And she claims that they stole her concepts and put them to the screen. Also included in the lawsuit was James Cameron, because she claimed that she had also shopped the story around Hollywood in the early 80s, and it had never been purchased by anyone, but James Cameron had seen it. So she was suing James Cameron, the Wachowskis, Joel Silver, another producer, for a combined total of $1 billion.
Bloody heck.
And I mean, there were some holes in her story. First of all, she couldn't remember what the name of the magazine was that she submitted the story to.
Oh, so you cannot find this article anywhere?
I feel no, it's not around. Also, at the time in 1986, the Wachowskis would have been 18 and 21.
Okay.
So they were probably not in the business of being some sort of Hollywood science fiction story power brokers at that point.
Okay, so that's something, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's another example though, isn't there, which is kind of got a bit more weight behind it.
There is a writer named Grant Morrison, and they are very prolific in the comic book industry. In the sort of early to mid 90s, they created a comic book called The Invisible, which again sort of contains elements like, there is a sort of domineering force that is, blinding the world to the true nature of, what humanity is really dealing with. And there's sort of a group of resistance fighters called the Invisible College, and they are fighting back against this sort of, invading force. And there's the team is looking in an early story looking for a kind of the one, a kind of, one person who might be able to upset the balance and change the reality. The leader is sort of like a bald-headed man with glasses who at one point gets captured by the bad guys and interrogated.
Some of the artwork is not dissimilar from some of the stylistic choices, I guess.
Yeah, The Invisibles contains a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
Hundreds, if not thousands of ideas. And so you might say, well, obviously those you can't copyright. But this is an interview with Grant Morrison. This is from
a magazine that nobody found.
No, this is actually part of an interview from the website Suicide Girls.
Okay.
Where Grant was interviewed. The interviewer asks, "This may be old news, but was the controversy over the Matrix films being like The Invisibles blown out of proportion?" And Grant says, "It's really simple. The truth of that one is that design staff on the Matrix were given Invisibles collections and told to make the movie look like my books. This is a reported fact. The Wachowskis are comic book creators and fans, and were fans of my work, so it's hardly surprising. I was even contacted before the first Matrix movie was released and asked if I would contribute a story to the website. It's not some baffling coincidence that so much of the Matrix is plot by plot, detail by detail, image by image lifted from the Invisibles, so there shouldn't be much controversy. The Wachowskis nicked the Invisibles, and everyone in the know is well aware of this fact, but of course they're unlikely to come out and say it." Grant is generally not really concerned that it was stolen, but more that the ideas were kind of watered down. They became more kind of sort of based around like Catholicism and a savior and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where the original stuff is kind of deeper and has more, just sort of more heft to it, and certainly more detail.
And more kicks, right?
Oh, so many more kicks.
Because Keanu doesn't do that many kicks.
Yeah. Morrison then goes on to say, "I love the first Matrix movie, which I think is a real work of cinematic genius and very timely, but I've now heard from several people who worked on the Matrix, and they've all confirmed that they were given Invisibles books as reference. That's how it is. I'm not angry about it anymore, although at one time I was, because they made millions from what was basically a Xerox of my work, and to be honest, I would be happy with just 1 million, so I don't have to work 13 hours of every effing day, including weekends." I mean, Morrison has since gone on. I mean, and I think it is a case of kind of any kind of legal action against the Wachowskis probably would have been, ice skating uphill in the sense that Morrison published The Invisibles through Vertigo. Vertigo's an imprint of DC, and DC is owned by Warner Brothers. And yet, nevertheless, they seem to have worked it out sort of in the meantime, because Morrison has gone on to do many, many more things for DC. A very significant hand in the creation of sort of the modern day DC universe and the creative direction it's gone in. It seems to be, in the modern day, there is no bad blood between the groups, I think.
It is interesting, though, that there's not really any mention of it since then, so it does feel like something was worked out.
But I always had an inkling about this. I'd not read this interview in many years. And but in looking it up today, I'm like, did I make this up? Because again, Morrison worked and continues to contribute not just in minor ways, but with writing for Batman and Superman and all the big guns of the DC universe.
Yeah,
So
big
guess
stuff.
guess they worked something out.
Here's something for you, Mason. Here's something that I think everybody's excited for. Matrixvia. This is Matrix trivia.
Oh, this is Matrixvia.
Matrixvia.
Very good.
According to the Wachowskis, all animals in the Matrix universe are computer-generated images. So none of your pets are real. Fuck you. Warner Brothers wanted Brad Pitt or Val Kilmer. Both of them turned down the role, and then they came to Keanu Reeves and Johnny Depp. But apparently, Keanu Reeves wanted it more. Prior to that, in 1994, they were very interested in casting Brandon Lee before his passing, which I could totally see.
That would work
In this role, yeah. Mark Wahlberg was also considered. I do feel like, though, if they put Mark Wahlberg in, that would have bled over into the character and he would have never got the Matrix. Like, he'd be in the fight at the end and they're like, use all your powers that we taught you. And he's like, what do you mean I'm in a computer? Anyway, that's the way I think it would have gone.
I understand.
Gillian Anderson turned down the role of Trinity. Russell Crowe turned down Morpheus. Jean Reno turned down Agent Smith for Godzilla at the time because he didn't want to move to Australia, specifically Sydney, of course, for obvious reasons. We talked about it.
Got him, Sydney. We love you. We love your harbour. We love your opera house.
We do. A lot of the sets were reused from Dark City, which came out the previous year, but Matrix was written technically before.
Oh, are you staving off more accusations of plagiarism there?
I don't know, mate. I mean, there's enough.
It
doesn't matter if I throw another one on top.
No, and I think that's too close as well.
Absolutely, it is.
They would have both been in production unless the Wachowskis and Alex Proyas were having chats over the phone in which they were explaining what they were currently doing on their films. I don't think.
That's right.
They either would have copied the other.
Exactly. There was a deleted subplot that reveals 5 other versions of the One had appeared in the past, all of whom died after attempting to fight the agents.
I mean, and that is brought back in the sequels, yeah.
And this is a fun bit of trivia. Makes trivia to end on. Tasty wheat, which is mentioned when Mouse is trying to describe the food in the real world, was replaced by Sex Krispies in the German version of the movie. Is that true? Because I Googled it and it just seems made up.
Sure does.
It was in the trivia though.
Is Tasty Wheat a real product?
I couldn't really find, I mean, probably, but that wasn't what I was Googling. I was Googling Sex Krispies, Mason.
Sex Krispies German.
That's right.
Image search. Safe search off. What's going to happen?
Now, people like this movie, I think, a lot of the time because it's about a special boy who doesn't realize that he's the most special boy in the universe, right?
It's a cinematic version of One Direction's That's What Makes You Beautiful.
That's right.
He doesn't know that he's beautiful.
But the thing about this is, which is really interesting in hindsight, and there are people who are well more versed in this topic than we are, is that there is a lot of trans messaging in this movie. For those people who don't know, the directors of which are trans, which is really interesting in hindsight, whether it be they're put there intentionally or not. But there is a character called Switch.
Yes.
And originally that character was supposed to be male in the real world and then female when they're in the Matrix.
Because the Matrix provides a digital image of your real self.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was really fascinating that there is stuff like that, already baked into this, which you don't really pick up on at the time. Well, certainly I didn't.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'm sure other people most likely did. But I just think that's just like another layer to this, which just makes it an incredible movie.
And it fascinates me that people are mad about that. Does that take away from your big kicks, does it?
You're still a special boy. Don't
You're
worry
still
about
a
it.
very special boy and you can do big kicks. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Oh my God, Mason, what's happening? Are we being drawn into the world of the Matrix somehow?
Aye, I'm scared, James.
I'm also scared. Who knows what this is going to be? I do.
What is it?
Matrix: The Path of Neo.
Oh my goodness.
Are you familiar with this game?
I'm familiar with Shiny Entertainment.
Absolutely.
Of course, produced Earthworm Jim.
Yes, that's right.
And then were gobbled up in a series of acquisitions, and I think they're owned by Amazon Game Studios now. But anyway, they also made this game.
That's right.
Well, the first Matrix game was Enter the Matrix.
Yes.
Which is like, it's a whole separate story.
Oh
it's
my
a side
God.
quel to the Matrix sequels.
Filmed a bunch of crap
But
for it.
this one is, people, they were like, no, this is what people actually want is to play as Neo. So you're like, you learn to do Kung Fu.
Kick a guy in the head.
Kick a guy right in the head.
Damn.
Now this is the famous two blokes have a drunken punch-up scene from the Matrix 1.
Exactly.
The first Matrix.
Now, there's a lot of jank to this, I'm not going to lie, but it's quite fun. Like, if I'm honest, and there's some real weird stuff in it. So I
Okay.
thought for this week,
Yeah.
since have been pulled into the world of the Matrix,
Aye.
exactly. Why not do this sequence, which I think is one of the best fight scenes from the movie? I've always had a bit of a soft spot for this.
Yeah, yeah,
for this
yeah.
game. There are some genuinely good sequences in it, including this.
It was a big kick just then.
There's a big kick just
What the
then.
Matrix is all about. What do you want it with a video game? Is you want it to encapsulate what that movie was all about, like a movie adaptation.
Yeah.
And the Matrix is all about big kicks and doing a sort of a little wrestle with your
Wrestle,
friends.
Exactly. The idea here, like the movie, is to get him in front of the train.
Yeah, because I've noticed you've beat him down a bunch of times.
Yeah, but you can't actually kill him.
Yeah, because his
I can't
his health
shoot
bar
him.
keeps.
He'll dodge it. He's got a bad attitude. Even if I do a flip, he'll still get me.
You would think that he'd at least stop and be impressed by that big flip you did, but
Oh no, he's knocked me down. But don't worry.
I'm a little bit worried.
Don't worry, I said.
No, I'm worried.
I played through this entire game so I could do the level select for it, Mason.
Wow.
Do not
'Cause,
worry.
James, I'm worried because if you die on YouTube, you die in real life.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, I wish that was true of a lot of YouTubers. And it's neither here nor there. This guy's going to go into the train. I'm going to put him in there.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna get him?
So when the light goes, see, there's the train. It
Oh,
goes
yeah,
past
yeah,
every
yeah.
like minute or so.
Okay, all right.
I just got to line it up perfectly. You can actually like fight him on the tracks, then the last minute just move out of the way.
Yeah, right. This is reminiscent of the video game Frogger. Do you think that's deliberate?
Like getting someone in front of a train.
Yeah.
Isn't the object of that game to not go into the train?
No,
though?
the objective of the game Frogger is to get your little frog in front of some heavy machinery and get it killed, as far as I know.
Here we go. I've got it. I think I got it.
Oh, yeah.
Here comes the train.
Uh-oh.
Toot, toot. Hey, get in there. Come on, mate.
I didn't see
Ah!
Wow.
I thought I had him. I'll kick him into it. Get in the goddamn train, you son of a bitch. Get over here. Ow! We could be here for the rest of the day, though. Now.
Good. That's what I want. This is also reminiscent of that game Gang Beasts. I don't know if you've seen that. It's you sort of like doughy plasticine animals
Oh,
that
I
have
do
really
know that, yeah.
just really poor grip, and you stumble about and you attempt to throw people off into various pieces of deadly machinery, including a scene set in a subway, which I think is probably supposed to be reminiscent of the video game Frogger.
That is not inaccurate to how this feels, actually, because it's just wonky. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's some good advice. Please stay behind the white line.
Get in the train!
Was that
Watch
Morpheus,
this.
do you think?
Boom! Ah, there's a pillar in the way. Do you think it was?
Yeah.
Here you go, get behind the line.
This is Morpheus. I've commandeered the train station's PA system. Watch out for pickpockets. Please put your litter in the trash cans provided.
He's killed me, Mason.
You're dead, though.
I'm going back in for more Matrix.
Back into the Matrix?
That's right.
Wow, this is real Enter the Matrix situation.
I'm back here again.
Wow.
Jesus. I'm going to do the Matrix on this guy.
Okay.
He doesn't even know.
That's Neo's famous catchphrase. I'm glad you worked it in there.
It's interesting, though, because this game came out in 2005, and there were a lot of games of that era that look much, much better.
Sure.
But I think this does so much, like, right off the back of Enter the Matrix. For one, you get to play as, like, a character you know.
Sure.
And, you know, and you get to do a bit of everything. Like, you do, you know, you can switch between guns and hand-to-hand weapons and just your fists or whatever.
Yeah.
It's all pretty good stuff.
And it gets weird, which we'll probably talk about in another
Oh, we're definitely going to talk
episode,
about that. Yeah, I mean, if we get drawn back into the world of the Matrix.
Oh, that's true. I mean, most likely after this, we'll escape the world of the Matrix.
That's it.
Yeah.
This goddamn train. Woo!
You got him good.
Can't get me.
Yep.
I'm running away. Let me out of here. How do I get out of this train station?
There should be a part where you just run away. You just keep running away.
Well, you do that actually.
Oh,
the
yeah.
next level is you just run away. Yeah.
But I think it should just be like Neo decided to be a coward and
Yeah.
ran away from his destiny, and that was okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of good kicks there, right?
Oh,
there.
you know what there should have been? There should have been a video game called The Matrix Path of Blue Pill Neo, where he takes the blue pill and then he just goes to work the next day at the software company, and you're just writing code.
Well, funny you should say that because you do get the choice of pills in this.
Yeah.
And if you pick...
Perhaps I was wrong about you, Neo. I'm sorry you won't be joining us.
See ya!
Look out!
Oh, get out of here! Look out of the train! I got him! I got killed also!
Oh my god. Great. Nice.
Into the train.
Nice.
Don't forget to go in the train. Don't forget to go in the train.
Hey, Agent Smith, you're late. Your train's coming. Once you get on the train, you late? Are you late for your train?
Why don't you kiss the train? You love it so
right.
much.
Hey, Agent Smith, guess you're on the right track. What if this was Neo's character in the movie? Just a series of just endless bad puns in every scene.
Mostly train related.
Yeah.
I would love it.
Even just in the entire movie. But then when the train came and killed Agent Smith, you'd be like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. He was talking about the train.
The train, yeah.
How's that?
Nice. That's
How's that
good
for
stuff.
action?
Yeah, that was good action.
How's
I
this for
think.
romance?
Oh!
Like a little grapple.
Nice.
I
Sorry,
feel
you're
like I'm
saying?
winning this thoroughly, though, right?
Yeah. But
Like,
as
he's
we know,
not landing that-
as we know,
doesn't count.
canonically, agents in the movie and the video game, The Matrix, can literally only be killed by a train.
That is
it's
true.
It's built into the code. The architect made it so.
Yeah.
James, get him. Get him with the train. Gonna be here all day.
Great.
Nice.
It's a really good time to unlock a greater level of awareness. I can't believe this has never taken me this long. Here we go.
Here we go, James. You can do it.
Bam.
There we go.
Stay on the track.
Nice.
Got him.
Nice. And you got it in view of the camera as well.
Exactly.
You know.
Let's imagine if I... Anyway, I'm leaving, I guess.
Okay, cool.
Goodbye,
Bye,
everyone.
Bye forever.
Uh-oh, everybody.
Uh-oh.
The Matrix is still happening. You
Nice.
thought I'd solved the Matrix, but the Matrix is still with us in a way.
We're still in the Matrix.
Anyway, this is Path of Neo. Maybe we'll come back next week to do one of my favorite sequences from the game.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, what are the odds we're so inept we'd get sucked into the Matrix again next week?
It's very unlikely.
Isn't it, though?
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
I just want to quickly talk about the budget before we get on out of here, Mason.
Mm-hmm.
It cost $63 million. They were thinking of stripping the budget right back because the studio was like, what the fuck is this?
Mm-hmm.
Then they saw like a cut of some of the scenes. Were like, oh no, actually this is great. And it ended up making $465 million, won a bunch of Academy Awards, and of course led into the very successful but not as beloved sequels.
That's right.
And some various spin-off media.
And that scene in Shrek where Princess Fiona jumps up in the air and does a Matrix kick.
That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be denied. Anyways, this has been Caravan of Garbage. We do these every week. And if you do want to see these early, because maybe you do, you can head over to bigsandwich.co where they always go up there early. Ben gets the amazing edit done. He sends it over. It goes up there. But there's also bonus movie commentaries and bonus podcasts, including our podcast, The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. Normally comes out Monday, but there it comes out Sunday.
That's right.
I'm at Mr. Sunday Movies on Twitter.
I'm at Wikipedia Brown on Twitter.
I feel like I've missed like a bunch of stuff about this movie.
Yeah.
You know? I could just talk about every aspect of it.
Sometimes we do a very surface level reading of a very complicated text.
That's it.
And then we wake up late at night, we're like, he did punches as well as kicks. I forgot to say.
All right, but thanks for watching, everybody.
He had all those guns.
Yeah, he had all those guns.
All the guns he had. Remember at the end, he had all those guns.
Doesn't fire a gun in the other movies either.
Huh.
He didn't need
Because
lots
he
of
hurt
guns.
his hands?
No, because
Too much hand hurting?
No, he was a special boy. He could do
he
special
was very
flying abilities.
Very special boy.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
All right, grab that jammy, guys. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.